And good evening. Welcome back live to Cleveland, Ohio. I'm Father Lorenzo Lebrija from the Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles, and welcome to Inside Evangelism Matters. What is Evangelism Matters? Well, we've been out here for a couple of days as more than 400 members of the Episcopal Church from about 80 dioceses have come together here in Cleveland to learn, share, and just be with each other and talk about evangelism and why that is important for us here in the Episcopal Church. Today, there were a gazillion workshops, and I want to read you some of the titles of them. We had Episcopal Evangelism 101. We had Scrappy Church Evangelism. You may remember yesterday we had our very good friend Nancy Frausto with us, and she led that one. Prayer and Evangelism, the story of the funeral home church. I mean, really, there's like all sorts of things. Reaching millennials, which we've talked about. Evangelism for shy people. There has been just a ton of workshops. And while we have broadcast some of these workshops live, you will be able to see them on our website at evangelismmatters.org because they will be archived there. So if you were unable to watch them live, you can just go back there. They probably are there now. So just go ahead and check that out. Last night, we also had the great fortune of being present. And this is one of those times I wish you had been there in person to experience our presiding bishop preach. And man, he preached it. He was there. He was present. He preached it. And he talked to us about basically the truth that if somebody hadn't evangelized, he wouldn't be there. And that's the same for me, that's the same for you. If somebody somewhere hadn't evangelized, you wouldn't be where you are today, and that's why evangelism matters. So it was great, it was awesome, and it's also on our website, so be sure to check that out. But all that out of the way, as we've been doing these last days here in Cleveland, we're going to talk with someone who's been here. And this is someone who's been one of the chosen catalysts, right? The chosen people. In the Episcopal term, not in like the general, he's not Jewish. He's Episcopalian, I'm told. So great, let's go back. So what we're going to talk about is just his story, because Jordan's story is one of almost self-evangelism and why it is. I totally can see why it is that his bishop selected him to come here and be one of the catalysts who will now go back to northern Indiana to share the good news of to the people in his diocese. So please join me in welcoming Jordan Tendelman, who is our guest this evening. Good evening, Jordan.
Nice to be here. My pleasure.
So I understand that yours is a dynamic story, and mind you, we only met like 5 minutes ago.
That's
so
correct.
This could all go downhill, people. This could quickly. I'll get a tweet from the presiding bishop, and I won't have a job anymore. But tell me your story, your own sort of story that led you to where you are now.
Absolutely. So I was raised in a divided home, divorced parents, like many people in this day and age. And my mother had always been rooted in kind of a old world, female-based Wiccan style pagan upbringing. So I had that on one weekend, and then the next weekend, my father, after embracing sobriety and going through the AA program, found himself kind of springboarding into more of a mega church kind of evangelical experience. And so, as I was growing up and kind of exploring...
Did you find yourself drawn to one more than the other?
I didn't. I found myself kind of not into either of them, to be very honest with you. I always tell people that I found punk rock when my dad found God, and we just kind of were on the same page for a while.
Hey, there you go.
And so
happens.
I was doing my whole counterculture thing, and I really didn't... It felt like choosing one or the other was going to be choosing one of my parents over the other. And that's and I think that's a dynamic that a lot of kids who come from broken homes experience.
I can see that.
And so when I got into my early 20s and started feeling kind of a motivation to explore spirituality and a higher dimension of the human experience, I opted to not go for either one of those. And I found myself becoming really interested in meditation, and particularly a quiet meditation. Okay. And I gravitated towards a relationship with a Zen Buddhist teacher from Japan. And I set quiet, unfocused meditation with him for almost 8 years. And during
Wait, you sat for one meditation for 8 years?
No. But I engaged in practice.
Credit to you, I say.
I engaged in practice with him under his guidance, and through studying lots of different Mahayana Buddhism, lots of different strains of Buddhism, but particularly focusing on Zen and that practice of just quiet stillness.
Okay.
And it was in that quiet stillness that I just came in contact with something that I couldn't deny. It wasn't just an abstract energy. It wasn't just some sort of force to be reckoned with. It was the Holy Spirit. It was Christ. And I had this kind of nagging Jesus complex that came over me. And I remember even going to my Zen teacher, and I'd say, I got this nagging Jesus. He won't leave me alone. And in all respect to the Zen tradition, his standpoint was, well, what's the problem?
If Buddhists,
if
never having a problem with anything.
If Jesus is a symbol by which you are finding the urge to be drawn into compassion, urge to be drawn towards enlightenment, then what's the issue? You should embrace it. But
plus, he's nagging you apparently.
But he's nagging me. Yeah, so I should try and let this thing go.
You got to listen to the nagger.
But that's the thing. It was a nagging thing, and if it was as simple as just dismissing it as a symbol that I identified with, or an abstract idea that I identified with, then it wouldn't be nagging, would it? It'd just be another one of the amazingly rich symbols that we find in all different kinds of cultures and religions that can point to universal truths that we share, right?
Good point.
But there was this thing that just propelled me on, and at some point I just knew I needed to seek Christian fellowship.
Okay.
And I felt a draw towards the sacraments. I'd gone through what is called the taking of the precepts in Buddhism, where you receive a lineage from your teacher. Oh. It's very akin. There's water sprinkled. It's very akin to the idea of baptism, right?
It sounds familiar to me.
If this sounds familiar. But I didn't receive that peace. I didn't receive that settling feeling that I was looking for. That true. I had to keep convincing myself that this is what I wanted to do. And at some point, the game was up. I was like, all right, nagging Jesus, like.
That's going to be the title of your book, Nagging Jesus.
Let's do this. Do you know what I mean? And so I began, internet shopping for, what denomination was going to embody these various things that I was looking for.
Did you enter that way into Google? Google, these are the things I want in a denomination. Where should I be practicing?
Kind of, because I knew I wanted a strong sense of tradition.
Okay.
In Zen, as we're part of becoming a compassionate human being, a loving human being that Jesus calls us to be, is kind of getting over ourselves. It's getting past that ego, right? And so I have a lot of ways of being expressive in my everyday life. I'm not
sure everyone can see, but you've got...
I'm by no means quiet. I have
more than one tattoo,
I've got a couple tattoos, so I'm a very expressive person.
I want to guess that was during the punk rock period?
It's been ongoing.
Okay.
It's been ongoing. I mean, even just in the last couple of years, the first time I served as an acolyte and I,
Wow.
administered the chalice, I went and got a tattoo to commemorate it.
That is commitment. When you put a chalice, I am that kind of acolyte people. I'm going to tattoo the chalice.
Yes, so it's a diary.
Sure it wasn't a cheat sheet?
It's a diary that everyone can read. That's the way I always tell them.
You give the chalice, the blood of Christ.
Yeah, okay. So there became a time where I knew I needed that Christian fellowship. And so I began looking for a denomination that was rooted in a traditional practice, because I found in Zen that, going through that process of this is when this happens and this is when this happens was an amazing way to counteract that grasping and controlling part of your mind. It's that same part of your mind that makes us defensive. It's the same part of our mind that makes us self-persevering in our behavior. So I enjoyed that part of the Zen practice of having a routine that you went along with. So I was looking for the
and I
pew
understand
acrobatics.
You picked up the phone and called someone and said, I want to go to church with you or something like that?
No, I just found the Episcopal Church, and I found that it had all the stand kneel that I was looking for. But it also had a progressive, emerging progressive outlook on social issues and stuff.
Which in Indiana is probably not that common.
But in a Big Ten college town, it was. And it was vitally important to me that I was going to enter into this newfound communion with a group of people that the focus was going to be on an openness and an acceptingness of all people, and that all people are born. Right, the rightful birthright is as children of God.
And how would you say that experience for you informs who you are now as an evangelist, as you share that with others?
Well, for me, when I speak with people, so often I'm talking to people who still come from kind of the counterculture background that I came from. And I was just speaking to
I think
my father,
the tattoos
Dan
give you a credibility, right?
It does. And for so many people, that conversation isn't so much about Jesus right off the bat. It's a long, ongoing process. It's just convincing people to show some validity to any kind of spirituality whatsoever, let alone coercing them into coming to church with me.
And the Book of Common Prayer.
Yeah, but it's to initiate conversations that I know through my personal experience, having encountered the Holy Spirit sitting in a Zen center in southern Indiana, that any kind of thinking about thinking, any kind of examining the human condition, any kind of longing for a spiritual connectedness to our reality that goes beyond just the mundane, ultimately leads to Jesus, because that's what I've experienced.
No,
I trust in that.
Yeah,
I
no,
trust
that's
in that.
and you know, several of the guests who we've had here have talked about how it is from our own transformation that we enter into relationship with others to see where they're at and sort of walk with them. And
Absolutely.
you do the holy listening and you try to figure out. And at some point, there's a moment when you like say, "Hey, do you want to come to church with me?" Or
Yes.
is this something that might appeal to you?
Or they find that your openness to discuss things and be really real and you know, make jokes about things even
Authentic.
at times is authentic. And then they go, where do you
Calling
go?
Jesus, nagging Jesus.
So where do you go to church again that they accept you? Do you know what I mean? And,
Yeah, right.
And you're like, it's the Episcopal Church. Here it is. And I explained that it's that balance. It's a balance of tradition, and tradition in the sense of a democracy, that these things have continued to work for us as a group of people in following Christ. And so we've continued with these traditions. But there's also this progressiveness that replaces the things that weren't working. Do you know what I mean? The things that become stagnant.
Now, have you learned stuff here that you're going to take back and be able to be the catalyst in Indiana?
I really have, and this is, you know, I'm sure that I'm not the only one that this couple series of days has been deeply personal and where they're at with you know, there's so many people here.
Yeah.
But I just joined vestry for the first time like a year and some change ago, and was immediately put in charge of a commission called Open Invite Welcome, and it was kind of our diocese version of the Connect. And so we had done the first year of real personal inventory, kind of like what we're doing well, what we're, you know, where does our desire to be open, inviting, and welcome not line up with our actual practice of being open, inviting.
The reality and what we want.
Really, and we did, and you know, we reworked logos, we reworked the website, we really kind of did a lot of personal housekeeping, but now we're on this cusp of now how do we move forward with that?
Yeah.
And so the biggest thing that I've taken from this, not only the Catalyst Day was just amazing in the small groups, but from all the conferences that I've been to, and all, of course, Bishop Curry's amazing sermon last night, was that the emphasis moving forward for our congregation, it isn't about new membership development as much as it is about proclaiming that message, about telling that story,
Amen.
about deepening our relationship, not just with the outside community, but within us, to continue to explore our spirituality, continue to tell our stories, because the more we get comfortable telling our stories with those people we have that spiritual trust with within our congregation, where we feel comfortable talking about Jesus, where we feel comfortable talking about our relationship with God. The more we practice that within our congregations, the more we're able to bring it out into the world at large.
And I have a feeling that a lot of young people, particularly if they listen to someone like you who relates to them, and someone who can, you know, the fact that you do have tattoos, not to sort of categorize that as like, oh my God, he obviously can deal with young people because he's got tattoos, but you have an authenticity about you in your own way to finding your way here that has done that for you. So congratulations. I'm glad you were part of this conference.
It was a pleasure.
I have a feeling that we're not done hearing about Jordan, and so be sure to keep an eye out for what will come for the rest of the church from Northern Indiana as Jordan is set free to tell the world about Jesus from any way and in any path. So when we come back, we'll be joined by the Dr. Sandra Montes, who will be talking to us about her experience here. But we're going to go to a break now where we're going to talk about a little bit about Thai street food and how that can be a way of evangelizing in a community. Stick around, we'll be right back.
For me and for my parents, food is a way to connect ourselves and also connect ourselves to our current community. You know, I was looking for a commercial kitchen to start this offshoot of our family business. We have 2 restaurants in Portland by the same name of Khao San. It was started with my cousin and his wife, and they have formulated these recipes to bring Thai street food to the U.S.
I was approached by a member of my staff who said, I know someone at the Presbyterian Church who's looking to open a Thai restaurant. And Sori said that it's been her dream to open up something that would feed the public, that would cook street food from Thailand.
And he said, well, St. James has this beautiful commercial kitchen that we're not using. How about we get together and partner so that you can do your Thai street food and the church can help be a bigger presence in the community. I was born in Laos, in Vientiane. My father was in the Royal Lao Army, so when the CIA pulled out of the Lao Royal Army, we had to flee. When we came here, we were sponsored by the Mennonite Church, and I grew up in Kidron, Ohio. My mom made these egg roll recipe that she made to support the Mennonite church. She had an egg roll stand, and that's how she has learned how to give back to her church. And that's where I picked up that tradition. The recipes are basically the same. We've changed them over time to adapt to local produce, local flavors. And, like the meal that I'll be having tonight is a celebratory meal that we do with our family. It's usually eaten on the floor, on a mat, very communal style, but tonight we'll be eating it in chairs and with wine. So it's going to be a little bit Americanized for my friends and family.
One of the things that Sori said to me when we first met that was really important to her was bringing people together around food, how food helps create community and creates relationship. To me, that was one of the most exciting things about what she's doing, and it hooks into the mission of the church, because the mission of the church is to bring people together, to bring healing to relationships. So she feeds people physically with really exciting food from across the world. We feed people around our own table and do so in a way that heals the spirit and brings God closer to their lives.
The people who work in downtown Birmingham will call us the secret Thai place. And, it's a doorbell on Chester with our logo, and that's it. And, you place your order online, you call us, and then in half an hour you pick up your food, you ring the doorbell, and either myself or Amy will run it up to you. So it can't get any better than that in terms of knowing who's cooking your food. And what's great is that it brings in so many people. We've had over 500 new people walking through the doors to taste our food, to learn a little bit about what we do, and then to explore the church.
And what a great story that is. I mean, think about it. The ability to be able to use a kitchen that was underutilized as a way of helping the community. And not only that, the food looks delicious in that video. I am so hungry right now as we look at that. So, and for the record, that was St. James in Birmingham, Michigan. Not Birmingham, Alabama, but Birmingham, Michigan, which apparently is a wonderful place for Thai food. I want to go now. It's actually a good place. So now for our second half, we have another wonderful guest. We have had some great speakers here. We've had some great, and when we talk about the worship being great, one of the people who's done that is the person who's going to be our next guest. She is so talented in so many ways, and she just oozes this love of Jesus that I think is what not only informs her work, but I think also informs how people respond to her and thus are, by that, invited into the church. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sandra Montes, who's with us this afternoon. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Lawrence. How are you?
I must say, Sandra is a consultant and a musician,
I am.
and she lives in Sugarland, Texas.
Sugarland, Texas.
Sugarland, Texas. So, what you were here and you helped present in some of the
Yes,
workshops. You helped lead some of the music,
Right.
and it sounded beautiful. I mean,
Thanks.
it was such a wonderful mix of music last night
Right.
at the liturgy that provided. So, I want to talk to you a little bit about in the context of Latinos, in the context of when we're trying to reach just outside our immediate circles and we're trying to evangelize. What's it like in the Latino community to offer that invitation to, what is it that when we seek, name, and celebrate Jesus in the definition of it, what's it like in the Latino setting?
What I find very interesting and really cool is that Latinos, we love to share stories, we love to share our music, our food, all that stuff. So it really comes very easy to talk to Latinos and invite them into a conversation, coffee, a meal, come to my house, anything like that.
A meal is always like, it seems like
Always.
in any Latino thing, there's always a meal somewhere.
Always a meal,
And
yeah.
I'm always told, you're so skinny, eat more, type
Exactly.
thing. I was like, no.
I'm usually not told that, but hey, I will eat more. But it really is. It makes it really easy to go to Latino families or to go to anywhere where you find Latinos. You will find music, you will find food, you will find a lot of laughter and a lot of conversation. And as I'm sure you have, when we we travel to different places, you see that. It's the joy, they call it like Celia Cruz, azúcar, sugar and caliente, that heat. I mean, it's just, we're just very much about that, about family, about friendship, about talking.
Well, what's interesting about that, now that I'm hearing you say it, is that, and when we've had other guests here, it really is also, though, if you peel away, if you will, some of the differences, quote unquote, the similarities still, it's about relationship.
Always.
You can't just invite someone and say,
No.
"Oye, chica, come on, let's go to church." But
Right.
you've got to begin with a relationship with someone.
Yeah.
And pan. you know?
Exactly. One of the things that I always talk about is having respectful relationships. Whenever you want anybody to come into your congregation or into your life, right? Like I want youth, or I want families, or I want Latinos. Well, the first thing is, do you have relationships with them? Are you having respectful, which means like mutual, relationships with people? And the only way to do that is to get out there, wherever Latinos are at. And we're everywhere, right? We're everywhere.
That is
so,
true.
to get there and to start the conversation, because I feel like Latinos, we are very, like I said, family oriented. So we're always going to talk to you. We're always going to try to help, even if we're shy. We're always going to try to help. We're always, we want to make you happy.
Yeah.
At least that's what I see.
And usually there's, again, going back to, I know it sounds sort of trite, but there's usually an offer for food. I can't
Always.
tell you how many times there's an invitation like, "Oh, yeah, come over to the house for dinner. Come over to you."
And they mean it.
Yeah.
We mean it when we say, come anytime you want. Mi casa es su casa, that big thing.
Yeah.
It's true, because I'm always invited. Or I can just call somebody and say, I'm going to come over. And all of a sudden, there's some food. And you can smell it. You just walk in. They're like, please stay for dinner. Or, take a plate to go. I always have that too.
Let's backtrack here a second to you used a very specific form of invitation. You called it, the relationship was mutual, you called it?
Respectful.
Respectful. Mm-hmm. Tell me more about that. I mean, what's a characteristic of a respectful invitation or relationship?
Where I talk less and I listen more. I come to you.
I'm done. That's it.
I come
I'm
to
not
you.
good at that.
Well, I think you are, because when we've
kidding.
talked,
Yeah,
I know you
yeah.
are, but I think that's a big one. Where I'm like, I come to you. I'm not gonna tell you what I think you need. I'm gonna ask you, hey, Lorenzo, tell me about yourself, or tell me about the music that I just heard you listening to. What why do you like that?
So there's a sense of curiosity in there as well.
Always
isn't there?
curiosity. I always wonder. Yeah.
I wonder, now that I think about it, I wonder if curiosity is also part of evangelism, being curious about the other person. I guess if you really are in a mutual good relationship, then you're also going to be curious about where they are in their spiritual path, right? Mm-hmm. Before you can invite someone, you got to sort of talk to me about the conference. What have you found sort of interesting? What has been your wow moment during these days here?
My wow moment was, I think, today when people asked, why aren't y'all doing the plenary? That was a big one for Nancy, especially, but it's because people, I think, relate to us as Latinas.
Yeah.
Where, again, it's all about conversation. It's all about laughter. It's all about, curiosity. Tell me more about you. And I think that was a big thing, because a lot of times, we see people in panels and they're kind of talking at us. We're not talking together. And I think that's really important, especially for us. For Latinos, I always feel like one of my jobs is to do webinars. And we used to do it where the person would just teach.
Talk.
PowerPoint and talk. Now we do it where there's a panel. There's 2 or 3 people, and they just share their stories and invite people to also share their stories. And I think that's really important for a church.
That's an interesting dynamic also, because I've happened to have gone and celebrated Eucharist in Latino, obviously, congregations. And in so many of them, there's this expectation that they're going to ask questions during the sermon or at the end of the sermon, they're going to be allowed to say hey, could you clarify a little? And the first time that happens, if you're not used to it, you're like,
right.
What? Do we do that? Do I call? Is this a press conference now?
Yeah.
What's going on? But then you realize that all that is it really is about deepening their relationship, and that's what they're trying to do. And that's the same thing that really, if you think about it, is what evangelism is, right? When we're inviting them to more, we're seeking Christ and seeing. Now, tell me, what do you think? Bringing 400 people from across the church. And also, this includes, by the way, not just the continental United States. There are people here from what we consider Province 9, which is outside of the United States, like
Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Colombia.
A whole bunch of places, right? What do you think can come of this? Do you think that Bishop Curry last night said, well, we've done it twice now, and in the Episcopal Church, if you do it twice, that's a tradition, so we're now...
Right.
Do you think that this is a catalyst moment? This can be a moment that can lead to the Episcopal Church not thinking, or most Episcopalians not thinking, that evangelism is a bad word?
I sure hope so here. I know that in the 9th province, we don't have that problem. You know, when we go to other Latin American countries, evangelism doesn't mean, it's not a bad word. It's an actual like invitation. And I've heard that a lot from people. You know, when I was in Honduras, when I'm anywhere in the 9th province, it's more evangelical than here. So I'm hoping that that spirit that we have, you know, of, hey, let's, you know, get together, let's do this, let's evangelize, or let's learn about each other, you know, can become like a thing that all of us can do even here. And I think this has given us a voice, especially for Latinos here in the States. I hope that we can, those of us who came, you know, because there wasn't a lot of us, right? But hopefully that we can take it to our communities and then just share widely, you know,
And
about
I think
evangelism.
that's the intent, right? That those that were called catalysts and those who are here will learn and take it back, go back and be able to share it. And some of the workshops were in Spanish. Some of the workshops, most of the, I think all the plenaries were simulcast in Spanish as well. And they are recorded and they're on the website. So they're available for someone, for anyone of you who may have missed some of those, who wants to go. Again, the website is evangelismmatters.org, and you can catch the seminars there, the workshops there, and the information that's there. If you had one takeaway that you wanted to share with the audience tonight live here from Cleveland, what would that be? What is the takeaway?
Evangelism matters. You know, relationships matter.
Come on.
And what I mean is, you know, let's go back to that. You know, Jesus asked us to just go to the world and just share the good news. That Jesus loves you, that you are enough, that you're amazing just how you are. And so when we actually just take that to people, it'll just spread all over. That's what, at least that's how I see it, you know.
And that is such a needed message in the world today.
Yes.
Dr. Sandra Montes, thank you so much for being with us. It is always such a pleasure to spend time with you. It really is. Just your energy is amazing. And to hear you sing Alabaré and so many other beautiful songs is also such a wonderful thing. I want to also remind you all that you can go to our website at evangelismmatters.org, where you can find not only our newscast from the last couple of days, our recap shows, but you can also find a whole bunch of the workshops that were recorded. Last night's Eucharist with the presiding bishop and the president of the House of Deputies. You can find that there as well. I want to make sure that we thank the good folks here at St. Paul's in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, who were so kind to host us here in what we've called Studio 19 here in Cleveland Heights. So thanks to them as well. And also, we'll be back in just a few months because we will go inside General Convention. We will be bringing you live daily updates and man, some of the creativity that has come from this team already about how we might be able to do that. I am excited about how we will make General Convention so much more accessible to all of you who are not able to be there with us. We're going to talk about how it is that we govern ourselves, all these other things. That's all going to come up. General Convention begins, I think it's July 5th, I want to say. So we will see you from Austin there. If you speak Spanish, si hablas español, quédate a continuación. Tenemos una conversación con la doctora Sandra Montes, pero en español, continúa. If you don't speak Spanish, thanks so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful evening. From Cleveland, Ohio, I'm Father Lorenzo Lebrija saying good night, be well.